Welcome to Investigations in Ritual Abuse tutorial number 1. Today we're going to demonstrate how to use patterns in obituaries to more effectively search the internet for information. We're going to use Lincoln Kevin and Khalil Kelly as an example, primarily because Khalil's maiden name was unknown and not easily accessible through conventional means. First off, we're going to use what we do know. Kevin and Khalil are in Utah or New York. Pull up Google, and let's look for a pattern. Type obituary Deseret News and click the first link that comes up. The first link that comes up takes us to a list of obituaries, the first of which is Dale Bennett. The thing to understand about obituaries and communication in general is that there are patterns. There's a form, syntax, and organization that's standard for obituaries and announcements of any sort, and identifying the patterns therein will enable you to effectively search for information using Google or any other search engine. As we scroll down, we find the survivors of Dale Bennett, and we see that spouses of surviving children or relatives have their first names in parentheses. That's standard for obituaries, and we need to really focus on that for our search, because using that pattern will take us to the information we want faster and more efficiently. We open up another window in our browser, and we use the information we know and the pattern in obituaries to construct our search terms: obituary Kevin, then Khalil in parentheses and Utah, because we know they've lived in Utah and New York, so we're starting in Utah. The first 3 search results bear fruit. We've got K. Kelly, John Henry Kelly, and Charles Ellis Johnson. If we click on John Henry Kelly, we see that we have Lincoln Kevin Kelly's genealogy available to us within the obituary. There's no guesswork as to his father's date of birth, death date, parents, siblings, and children. Now we begin transferring the information from the obituary to our family tree in Ancestry or any other tool you prefer to use to build family trees. Within the LDS Church of Satan, generational family relationships are everything in the victim statements. That's why I put a lot of effort into mapping those relationships, not just in the Hamblin case, but in a lot of cases I work. Additionally, the obituaries have tons of relevant information about the decedent and his family. We know from John Henry Kelly's obituary that he was a 32nd-degree Mason, with over 60 years of involvement in Masonry. We know that he didn't convert to the LDS until he was in his 80s, and that he wasn't sealed to his wife until several months before his death. We also know that his sons were members of the LDS who went on church missions, because his obituary says he supported their missions and the missions of his grandchildren. If you read the Hamblin victim statements, you know that the LDS Church of Satan is allegedly a multi-generational cult within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This means that Lincoln Kevin Kelly might not have been raised within the LDS Church of Satan per se, but he may have been exposed as a younger man to members all through his marriage. If you've investigated these types of allegations in Utah, you come across victims who allege that they were abused inside of Masonic temples by Freemasons and Shriners. Again, these are allegations, but it makes you look at John Henry Kelly as a man who might be involved in this type of activity, but not necessarily as a member of the LDS Church of Satan. As we enter in the information, we want to be precise and accurate as to dates and names, and if we don't know the gender of a particular person due to an ambiguity in names, we want to click Unknown in Ancestry. Ancestry as a tool will fill in a lot of blanks for you, but the information you enter has to be accurate in order to ensure that the blanks are filled in correctly. As my father used to say, proper preparation eliminates piss-poor performance. Rest in power, Mr. Man, legend. So as we move on, we'll get to the obituary of Charles Ellis Johnson, and boom, we've got Khalil Kelly's maiden name as a result of a simple tweak in search threads that gives us information we didn't have beforehand. With the maiden name, we can ensure that Ancestry provides us with relevant hints as to Khalil's family, and this will enable us to tie Khalil to other members within the LDS Church of Satan. So far, we've tied David Lee Hamblin to the Udalls, to Mike Lee, and to David Okerlund Levitt through genealogical research in Ancestry, providing us with more corroboration and circumstantial evidence that Rachel Hamblin and her sisters were telling the truth about family bloodlines being relevant to the LDS Church of Satan. Within pedophile groups, relationships are built around common interests, namely abusing children, material like pictures and films that document the abuse, and also around familial relationships. 93% of sexually abused children are abused by someone they know. This breaks down to 34% of children being abused by family members, and 59% of the children being abused by family associates. What this means is that Rachel Hamblin, Eliza Hamblin, and Catherine Hamblin's allegations align with the documented facts about child sexual abuse. Every single one of their abuses was a family member or someone who was known by their parents. They were never abused by strangers. Again, this adds another layer of credibility to their accusations. At this point, you can see that I'm filling in the information in the family tree from the obituaries, and building the tree back 3 generations: the current generation, the parents' generation, and the grandparents' generations. Each obituary that you utilize in your research will provide you with at least 3 generations of information, and sometimes more if the family lists grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the decedent. This gives a wealth of information, and more names to look into in things like sex offender registries or court record searches, in addition to corporate registries on sites like Open Corporates or the Secretary of State's website. Over time, you'll be building layers of information that provide you vital insights into the groups you're researching, and as you go on, you'll be able to unmask additional associates who may not have been listed in the victim's statements or the police reports you do have. You'll spot patterns in the information that enable you to build out information from a foundation, exposing abusers and fraudsters and others. Every human organization has patterns of behavior, and the more you examine and investigate those organizations, the better you'll become at spotting those behaviors and incorporating what you find into your investigative research. The big myth about investigative research is that it's super complicated and difficult, but that's only true if you don't know how to look. The hope I have for these tutorials is to provide you with a jump start on building your skills as citizen journalists or activists, so that you can fight pedophiles, traffickers, and abusers within your community by using free tools like Google, public records like property searches in your county, and low-cost tools like court record searches. When investigating a group like the LDS Church of Satan, the difficulty is connected to the sheer size of the group and the length of time they've been active. It's a lot of information to unpack, and a lot of information at the start leads to even more information as you progress. So speaking of tools I use Ancestry, newspapers.com, Spokeo, a lot of Utah Courts Exchange, various Secretary of State business entities searches, and a big Dropbox, among other items. I pay out monthly subscriptions or per search for the items I use, which can get quite expensive depending on the state or jurisdiction I'm searching in, but the most expensive thing is time. When I'm doing this research, I'm not making money at a regular job or a paying gig. For those of you who've purchased subscriptions, know that every dime you're spending on the Substack goes towards this research. Sometimes it goes towards things like food or an internet bill. Speaking of which, shout out to the 5G internet connection I recently got, which has been a huge upgrade over my 4G hotspot. Thanks to you subscribers, I was able to get that upgrade, so I'm really grateful to you for making this a lot easier in terms of a better internet connection. For those of you who read the Substack but don't subscribe, thanks, and keep sharing the writing with as many people as possible. I appreciate any and all support you can offer. Anyone who was victimized by David Lee Hamblin and the other alleged members of the LDS Church of Satan who want to speak to me can do so at 1830goel@gmail.com. I'm Goel1830 on Telegram, and my Substack is 1830goel.substack.com. The goal in this is to hold abusers accountable, and to help victims obtain legal representation to sue the members of the LDS Church of Satan and possibly find a way to bring those members to culpability within the criminal justice system. This video was made on OpenShot Video Editor, a free open-source video editing software. The graphics you see on my website were made in Inkscape, another free open-source graphic design software, and I also use GIMP for photo editing, because I got tired of paying a bunch of money for Adobe CS. I have to ball on a budget, and it's possible to do that thanks to the open-source community of developers and coders. I'll be dropping more of these mini tutorials in the future, and I look forward to hearing from you about what you'd like to see going forward. Hit that subscribe button and share this video and the writing over at the Substack. Oh, and before I go, if you want free software that enables you to download YouTube videos for footage in your video content, ClipGrab is an excellent open-source software that's simple to use and free. I used TextMagic for the text-to-speech in this video, because Liam's voice sounds so much suaver than my own. That's freetools.textmagic.com. It's really simple interface that's easy to use with a bunch of voices, and it's free to use. If you're on a MacBook like me, you can hit Command-Shift-5 to record your screen like I did in this tutorial, and you'll have your own mini-movie of whatever you're doing on your screen. As always, thanks for watching and supporting the Substack, this Rumble account, and the effort to take down abusers and traffickers. Hopefully, a lot of you are going to use these tutorials to build your own skill set going forward and clean up your community. My goal is to create activists and researchers one tutorial at a time, and if you're interested, we can do a Zoom class. Just email me or hit me in the Substack app chat, and we'll set something up.